According to Sunghoon, everyone who is categorized as a hero, an ordinary person, or a villain must not be considered the same. Not all heroes are great personalities, likewise, not all villains are bad people. Nevertheless, Sunghoon considers himself a villain. Suddenly 4 individuals seem to awake at the mysterious place. One of them with blonde hair, named Shin, accuses a guy named Kim of kidnapping them. However, Kim instantly hits Shin's stomach and knocks him down, and advises him to refrain from useless speculations. The other 2 also introduce themselves as Sunghoon and Mina. Meanwhile, they all notice the status window in front of them. While they were trying to figure out the circumstances, a zombie named Evil Spirit tries to get in by shattering the door. However, at this point, the status window shows them the quest. On the other hand, Kim finds the zombie weak and calls the other to help him in defeating the zombie. Meanwhile, 2 unknown men watch the tutorial through the camera screen and find that Kim already has high-level skills to battle. However, at that moment, Sunghoon selects the slaughter phase as his survival and stabs the weapon through Kim's neck cold-bloodedly and kills him. Seeing this, Mina gets frightened and yells, but Sunghoon murders her and the frozen Shin. When Sunghoon gets the message of clearing the quest, he has an evil grin. Then out of nowhere, a man named Jerry appears and tells Sunghoon that he's in the world called Mission, created by the gods. He also reveals that Sunghoon has been selected, as one of the players in the game, set to become the next successor of God. However, unlike games, he could really die, though he can also be resurrected once. Jerry tells him to check his inventory for the tutorial's reward, from which he can purchase skills and other items. After 3 hours of searching, Sunghoon finally purchases swordsmanship with the other 2 skills and some food items. He also chooses the magic book named Shock. After that, Jerry asks Sunghoon to slaughter the dog, which is a true test, though our ruthless protagonist does the deed without any remorse. However, he doesn't stop there and asks for more species to practice his skills before going to the mission world. After killing more than hundreds of animals, Sunghoon arrives in the mission world and spawns in a city. He goes to the receptionist at the mission station and selects the quest for clearing the plague of rats. Sunghoon then departs to the venue, but contrary to his assumptions, rats were challenging to catch up with. However, with Sunghoon's evil nature, he had already put poison on the food he brought beforehand, and used it to catch the rats and successfully clear the quest. Near the mission station, his quick achievement surprised everyone. Then 2 people there ask him for the tutorial's information. Sunghoon ignores them, but then for fancy, asks for their titles, and learns the boy's title is Courageous Leader. He then thinks of not telling them about his betrayer title. He then advises them not to take catching the rats as their quest. He helped them, in case he could use the boy as his pawn. The other players think Sunghoon wants to monopolize the easy quest, so they begin to ask the same quest from the mission station. Sunghoon finds them idiots and then smiles. Afterwards, Sunghoon asks for a wolf hunting quest and moves into the venue. There he fixes traps for the wolves and puts poison on his blades. The wolves show up, and one of them gets his leg captured in a trap. Sunghoon positions the sword and tries to assault it, but to his dismay, the wolf gets free. Nevertheless, Sunghoon instantly casts a shock spell on the wolf and stabs the sword through his neck. Meanwhile, the other wolf hangs on Sunghoon's shoulder, but unfortunately, the sword is not retrieved by the stabbed wolf, so Sunghoon uses a poison blade to attack it. Like this, he kills 30 wolves by himself and gets the additional guilds. He also gets the bonus of clearing the quest first. After that, he moves to the inn, where the guard blocks his way and asks him to show the riches to get in. However, to his astonishment, Sunghoon shows him 70,000 guilds. He then orders the meal. Meanwhile, the people who met Sunghoon before in front of the mission station arrive at the inn. Young offers Sunghoon that he will tell everything to him that is happening in the city in return for the meal, and our humble and kind protagonist agrees. Young then tells him about the riots that are happening in the city and tells that around the area, there is a place known as the Change Class Temple. Sunghoon says that he will buy them food every day from now on in exchange for information like that. When Sunghoon leaves the inn, he encounters the people asking for money to feed themselves. However, Sunghoon considers them worthless beggars and moves forward by hitting them. It reveals that in the past, he concealed his inner evil pretending to be a nice person even though he did not have good-willed emotions, but now, he can go through with his true self, the villain. Sunghoon goes to the Change Class Temple, where he meets Philip, the attendant. Then Sunghoon asks that he already got the class of swordsman, thief, and magician and how they differ from the ones at the temple. Philip explains that Sunghoon received temporary classes depending on the weapons that he used, which will change at any time, but the class that temple sales cannot be changed. Then, Philip recommends different classes to Sunghoon, depending on his experience. Sunghoon quickly shortlists them and gets the two. The swordsmanship and the righteous outlaw. Righteous law has the limitation that he cannot use cowardly methods with it, so he buys a swordsman class. When he goes through the way, some vagrants bother the lady and one of them even grabs her hand. However, the lady quickly cuts his arm off. Meanwhile, the robust man, Muhan, comes to Sunghoon and invites him to join his party. He tells his title as the leader and asks for Sunghoon's. Regardless, Sunghoon lies and tells him his title is the courageous survivor. After learning that Muhan's strength stat is much greater than his, he rushes to raise his abilities. Sunghoon decides to get the difficult adventure to get extra rewards, so he takes the sick orc opponent's quest. Meanwhile, the lady from earlier also asks for the same quest, and Sunghoon recognizes her as the one who appeared before. They both then enter the tutorial, and after teleporting to a different place, Sunghoon puts food in the forest as a trap, but the orcs recognize it, and then Sunghoon casts a shock spell and attacks. However, the orcs attack back, which leads Sunghoon to almost defeat. Sunghoon learns that even though the orcs are sick, they only staggered a little by the shock spell. Then, one of them comes to the front to fight with Sunghoon. However, Sunghoon immediately uses driving steps, a skill for confusing one's movement, and he then directs himself to pierce through the orc's neck with his blade. Then, he alters his attention toward the other orc. The orc assumes that Sunghoon has already exhausted, so he cannot block its attack, but Sunghoon again uses driving steps, confuses the orc with his movements, and kills him. The lowest clear condition for clearing the quest is to slaughter 3 orcs, thus, he can get through it by killing one more. Though with this, he will lose the possible rewards, so he decides to stay and then cunningly puts the trap in the forest. In the meeting, the elder decrees other orcs who can move even with the sickness to prepare for the battle against humans. Later, 2 sick orcs were scouting the area, but one of them fell into the trap and got stabbed with the poisonous blade. Sunghoon then encircles the other one who has not fallen and slaughters him instantly. He then pulls the first orc out of the well and asks if he has any other nearby companions. Orc rushes to gather the other orcs, but Sunghoon kills it right away. He keeps picking up the tusks from the orcs he kills to add to his inventory, and he uses his skills to deal with 2 orcs at once. In this way, he assassinates 12 more orcs and quickly gets to the sick orcs' village. However, to his surprise, no orc guards were scouting in the village, and the atmosphere was also silenced. When Sunghoon sneaks around the village, he listens to someone's wails. He gets in the house and finds that there are sick orcs who cannot move due to illness. Seeing that the orcs cannot resist, he finds it entertaining. One of them asks for help, but he arrogantly denies it and says he can only show mercy by killing them quickly. He then begins to massacre them and kills 29 orcs in total. Meanwhile, the elder orc glimpses the human's traces outside and then asks others to survey. However, when the elder orc arrives, he falls by the fishing string Sunghoon has used as a trap. He abruptly slashes its arm off, then the elder shoots the fire arrows at Sunghoon, but he continuously dodges them with narrow margins through diving steps skill. Suddenly as his energy declines, Sunghoon's body loses its balance, and fire arrows begin to hit his shoulder. So he uses magical resistance skills to overcome the fire's effect and immediately cuts the orc's head. As of now, he has killed 30 orcs. He then teleports back to the mission station. To heighten his level more, he impatiently asks for another quest, Ratman elimination. Meanwhile, the lady from earlier also seems to ask the same quest. Thanks for watching. If this series is the most liked in my newly created Manga Recaps production, I will make a part 2. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to help me make more content.